She did this on purpose, I shouted as I lunged forward, but Karen Holt, vice president of the Hawthorne Pines HOA, was already standing between me and the overturned stroller. Lily's tiny cry cut through the afternoon air, and Karen didn't even flinch. She had her phone out. No, not just her phone. The Community Safety Watch broadcast was running. She wanted everyone watching. "You're endangering the community's reputation," she snapped. "This is being documented live as an active threat." My baby stroller was on its side, her head bruised against the grass. Yet Karen's eyes weren't on Lily. They were on the viewers. She was performing. I looked straight into the camera lens and gave the truth she never expected. "You just triggered a federal safety system under fraud, and digital evidence doesn't disappear." Her grip faltered for a heartbeat, a flicker of fear behind the arrogance. If you want to see justice unfold against HOA tyranny, hit subscribe right now. And tell me, where are you watching from? I'm Ethan Ward. I spent 5 years designing child protection encryption protocols for federal agencies. I know how every safety alert here pings servers across 3 states before it lands in residents' hands. And I know how to trace the source when someone abuses it. Karen thought I was just another quiet single dad who'd roll over. She wasn't ready for someone like me, someone who sees every digital footprint she leaves behind. But the reason I wasn't backing down wasn't because she insulted me. It was because Lily needed the sun. Her pediatrician said natural light helped her recover strength after a complicated birth. I promised her mother, before I stood alone in that hospital room, that Lily would feel warmth and safety every day of her life. So, when Karen issued her violation claiming babies were unregistered noise, warning me to keep my daughter indoors like she was a mistake that needed hiding, I refused. Lily whimpered, and I dropped to my knees, checking her forehead where a pink welt had formed. My heart hammered. She was crying, terrified, trying to understand why the world suddenly hurt. I scooped her into my arms, feeling every tremor in her body against my chest. I swallowed the fear as it crawled up my throat, forcing myself to stay composed. Karen smirked at the camera. "See, reckless parenting, endangering a child in public space." Her words were for the audience. I could picture neighbor after neighbor staring at their phones instead of stepping outside to help. That was Hawthorne Pines. Appearances over safety. "You pushed her?" I said, my voice low, steady, a storm gathering. "And thousands of people are watching you commit child endangerment." Her jaw tightened. She flicked her gaze to the viewer, count climbing in the corner. Our private HOA channel wasn't so private anymore. The viewer count climbed, numbers ballooning into hundreds as notifications spread through the neighborhood. I imagined neighbors whispering behind curtains while my daughter cried on the ground. This wasn't an argument anymore. It was a broadcast trial, and Karen was the self-appointed judge. Every second she filmed, my resolve hardened. I needed them to see. Someone must have screen recorded. Someone must have uploaded. And now the whole world could see what kind of monster was guarding this perfect little neighborhood. I stood, holding Lily close, feeling her breathing steady. My muscles were shaking, partly rage, partly adrenaline. No father should ever watch his baby be treated like a problem to be removed. Karen took one step forward, lowering her voice just enough to hide it from the microphone, but not from me. "You don't belong here. People like you bring down property values. People like me, a widowed dad, a crying baby, a human being." She wanted silence, compliance, fear. Instead, she had just put herself on the wrong side of the law. And I was going to make sure every authority with power to destroy her perfect little throne saw what she had done. Lily clung to my shirt with her tiny fingers, and that grip told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't just a violation. This wasn't just harassment. This was war. I carried Lily back toward our townhouse, her small body pressed against my chest, while Karen's phone kept broadcasting as if she'd just scored a victory for the neighborhood. She stood planted in the grass behind us, like she wanted praise. I didn't look back again. I wasn't about to give her the satisfaction of seeing how shaken I was. I pushed through my front gate, stepping onto the porch where Lily's stroller usually rested, upright and safe. Today it looked like a piece of equipment from a crime scene. My hands were shaking as I fumbled the door open. Lily whimpered again, and I whispered that she was okay, even though I felt like the world was collapsing around us. Inside, I set her gently in her crib and checked the swelling. Her breathing steadied and her eyes fluttered shut. I forced myself to stay focused. I grabbed an ice pack and sat next to her crib, watching her fingers relax as she fell asleep. But threats were Karen's specialty. The harassment didn't start today. It only escalated today. The first warning came 2 weeks after I moved in. A yellow slip taped to my door. Violation number 14C. Noise disturbance between 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. Babies cry. Especially Lily, whose lungs had been fighting since the day she was born. I crumpled the paper and refused to dignify it with a response. Then came the second letter, then the third, then the fourth, each one harsher, written like a prosecutor's closing statement. Karen's name signed at the bottom every time, the ink practically screeching about rules and compliance. I tried to be patient. I tried to be neighborly. But Karen wasn't interested in neighbors. She wanted an audience. The final straw before. Today came last week. I found Karen on my security camera footage, crouching beside Lily's stroller outside my porch, muttering into her phone while filming the stroller's color, the cushion, the toys, claiming they violated community aesthetic standards. That was the moment I realized her obsession ran deeper than a few letters. She was building a case, one where Lily herself was Exhibit A. I stood from the crib and moved into the living room, reopening the Safety Watch app on my phone. Notifications lit the screen like fireworks, messages pouring in from residents reacting to the live stream. A few were supportive. Is the baby okay? I'm reporting this. But many were worse. Rules are rules. Keep kids quiet. Cowards. They hid behind screens. I scrolled deeper and found the emergency alert log. Karen had flagged the situation as a public safety threat involving a minor, and the system auto-uploaded the stream to the HOA cloud server. That meant metadata, timestamps, server calls, all traceable, all admissible. I leaned in closer, capturing screenshots, preserving evidence like I'd done 100 times in my job. Every digital breadcrumb Karen left behind would lead straight to her undoing. A sharp knock rattled the door. I opened it to find a neighbor I barely recognized. One of the silent watchers, phone in hand, eyes darting. "She's saying you attacked the baby yourself," he muttered. "That you threw the stroller." Of course she was already rewriting history. I didn't reply. I didn't need his approval. I closed the door, locking out his fear. The problem wasn't them. The problem was the woman whose voice controlled this neighborhood like a tyrant on a livestream throne. I returned to Lily's room. I stared at the bruise and made a promise. Karen Holt had crossed a line she didn't even believe existed. She thought the cameras protected her. She forgot who wrote the software. I opened my laptop on the kitchen counter, the familiar hum powering on beneath my fingertips like a weapon charging. I pulled up encrypted access tools I hadn't used outside federal work in months. My mind sharpened with every keystroke. Karen wanted a broadcast? She would get one. But this time, everyone would be watching for the right reasons. This time, her reputation, not Lily's safety, was the thing hanging by a thread. I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the stroller tipping, saw Lily's head hit the ground, heard Karen's voice twisting reality into performance. By morning, the bruise on Lily's forehead had darkened, a reminder of what Karen considered community improvement. The doorbell chimed at 9 a.m. Sharp. I expected Karen's retaliation already starting. Instead, when I opened the door, I found Brent Mayer, HOA secretary, awkwardly holding a clipboard like a shield. He avoided eye contact the moment I looked at him. Brent had always been a ghost in this neighborhood, the kind of guy who nodded politely but never lingered. Today he stood stiff on my porch, shoulders tense, looking like he wanted to flee. I need your signature," he said, voice shaky. "Incident report, required after emergency alert responses." His hand trembled as he offered me the clipboard. I noticed faint bruises on his wrist, like someone had grabbed him too hard. I didn't ask, yet. I signed and handed the pen back, but Brent didn't leave. He lingered, adjusting his glasses twice like he needed a distraction. "She posted a second video," he finally said, voice low. "She's doubling down, saying you staged the fall." Of course she was. Karen Holt never backed off a narrative once she started performing. Brent's gaze dropped. His shoe scraped against concrete, shifting back and forth like he was fighting the impulse to run. His whole body screamed conflict. "You don't agree with her?" I said. His shoulders flinched. "I shouldn't be here," he muttered, wiping sweat from his palms. "Karen said not to speak to you. She said you're manipulating people. She said the baby—" He clamped his lips shut. He wasn't a bad man, just a scared one. "Lily's a baby," I said. "Karen's the one who put her in danger yesterday." Brent's eyes flicked up, desperate for certainty in someone, anyone, because his trust in the HOA was cracking. "I saw the footage," he confessed. "All of it, not just what she showed, the raw feed." He hugged the clipboard tighter. "She pushed the stroller first. You weren't imagining it." There it was, truth from someone who saw everything. "But she ordered me to cut the part where she touched it," he said, voice tight. "She said it would hurt sales." He mimicked the phrase with shaking fingers. I stepped back to let him inside. He hesitated, glancing over his shoulder like Karen lurked behind a bush. When he crossed the threshold, he kept close to the wall, flinching at any sound. "She has access to every resident's device connected to Safety Watch," he continued. "She's been tagging families who devalue property standards. Children mostly." He swallowed. I didn't think it was real until yesterday. Shame poured off him. The unbearable weight of knowing he helped build this. He squeezed the clipboard so tight the plastic creaked. "She told us deleting that alert was a safety measure, but I know it was evidence, and I'm pretty sure she told someone else to wipe the backup logs. She doesn't want this getting out." He looked up at me with eyes that finally stopped running away. "You're not the problem here," he said. "She is." It was the first time a resident had spoken the truth aloud. Brent rocked on his heels, wringing his hands, regret obvious. "I don't know how long I can keep covering for her," he whispered. "I think they're watching me." "You're safe here," I told him. He closed his eyes, shoulders dropping in a shaky exhale. He looked toward Lily's room, guilt twisting his stance. "I never wanted a child to get hurt." "Then help me stop her." He nodded, barely, but it was enough. His foot tapped anxiously, but his eyes stayed locked on mine. Karen thought she controlled the narrative. She thought everyone would obey her fear. She didn't see her foundation cracking. When Brent finally left, he turned at the end of the walkway, glancing around nervously. Then he looked back and gave a small, terrified nod. The first witness had chosen his side. This wasn't just war anymore. It was an uprising. Brent's nod lingered in my mind long after he disappeared down the sidewalk. For the first time since moving here, I wasn't alone in this fight, but a single ally wouldn't stop Karen, and she was already moving faster than I expected. It started with a pounding on my door, sharp and official. 2 uniformed EMTs and a CPS investigator stood beneath my porch light like judgment had arrived early. I stepped aside and let them enter. One EMT immediately checked Lily's vitals, while the other documented the injury. The CPS investigator, a tall woman with a stiff posture and eyes trained for lies, pulled out a clipboard. She scanned the living room, searching for hidden chaos. "Emergency alert was triggered yesterday," she said, voice practiced neutral. "Safety Watch flagged a child in distress." "She fell because a resident pushed the stroller," I said, my fists tightened, "and it was live-streamed to the entire neighborhood." She wrote something down, her pen moving like a piston. "We'll need to review the footage," she said. "Good," I replied. "Make sure you watch all of it, not just what she exported." One EMT nodded. "Bruising is consistent with a fall, no signs of shaking or other trauma." The doubt still simmered in the investigator's expression. She wasn't convinced, not yet. As Lily rested after the examination, the investigator moved toward the kitchen. Her eyes flicked across the counters and the stack of HOA letters. "You've had multiple violations," she observed coldly. "For things like a crying baby and stroller colors," I replied. "She's been trying to push us out since day one." "What's your relationship with the HOA vice president?" she asked. "She hates rules that don't serve her, and I hate bullies." The investigator's head tilted, finally something she believed. The EMTs left first, but the CPS investigator remained long enough to deliver one final warning. "We'll follow up once we've reviewed reports and recordings. For now, take care of your daughter." She stepped outside and closed the door. A fresh cluster of notifications hit my phone. Karen's broadcast hadn't stopped. She had gone live again, claiming ongoing danger. Her voice blared from the screen. "This is why we enforce standards. Some people just don't belong in family communities." The video panned across the family lawn, dramatizing the scene. Neighbors peered from windows. I shut the video, rage boiling. Every lie Karen told tightened the net she was building around herself. I grabbed my keys. Evidence needed to be preserved physically. Outside, the air felt heavier. The family lawn looked different today, a battleground. Yellow hazard tape had been erected around the corner, as if Lily were a contamination and Karen were safeguarding the world from a baby's presence. I stepped across it anyway. The grass still held the dent from the tipped stroller. The mark was real, a wound on a place meant for children. Hurried footsteps approached. I turned to see Brent again, sweating, looking around nervously. "She's saying you tried to flee after the incident," he whispered, "and the board is drafting an emergency vote to sanction your removal from the community." Of course she was already planning the next strike. "I don't know how much time you have before they try something bigger," he added. "Something bigger, like taking my child." I took a breath, grounding myself. "I'm not leaving," I told him. Brent's eyes widened. I crouched and photographed every angle of the scene, grass indentations, tape placement. He watched the cameras lining the path, and his voice cracked. "She's watching." "Let her," I said. Justice was coming soon. Justice was coming soon. But justice needed proof, and I was done letting Karen write the narrative before I could defend myself. So I drove straight to work, the building where I'd helped federal agencies track predators and shut down digital threats far worse than an HOA tyrant. The security doors slid open, recognizing my badge. The chilled air smelled faintly of solder and coffee. Banks of monitors glowed in rows around the cybersecurity lab, each station manned by people who hunted danger through code. Today, I was one of them, but with far more personal stakes than any assignment I'd ever handled. I slipped into my workstation and logged into a secure sandbox environment. No risks, no leaks, everything encrypted. Everything recorded with a chain of custody. Evidence that would survive any courtroom. I uploaded the safety watch logs I'd pulled from my phone. Immediately, metadata populated across my screen. Timestamps, node relays, server IDs. I leaned forward, adrenaline sharpening my focus. The incident data wasn't just stored locally. Karen had routed the alert through a secondary server outside the HOA network, something that should only happen during federal law enforcement escalations. She forced an escalation for her own power show. My cursor hovered over the IP. I ran a tracer out. It bounced across state lines, Nevada, then Oregon, then back to Colorado, commercial cloud servers, not government infrastructure. That alone broke multiple privacy protection clauses, especially involving minors. She wasn't just streaming a tantrum over rules. She was exporting children's data unlawfully. I captured the chain in screenshots, storing each in encrypted evidence vaults. The more I dug, the worse it looked. Karen had flagged Lily's profile. Every time we stepped outside, the system logged Lily as a high-risk subject. I scrolled through tags she'd attached to families. Excessive noise, aesthetic concerns, unsupervised minors. Children weren't residents to her. They were liabilities. My jaw clenched. I could feel anger rising, hot and focused, but I kept working. Anger didn't win battles. Evidence did. As I decoded the audit trail, I noticed a new alert blinking on the top corner of the dashboard, one I definitely hadn't triggered. Unauthorized access attempt, the system flagged. My heartbeat quickened. Someone was trying to break into the logs. I counter-pinged the request. The source hashed back as Hawthorne Pines. Admin console authorization signature, Karen Holt. She already knew I was ahead of her. She was trying to wipe the footage before the world saw it. I sat up straighter, spine rigid. "Not today," I whispered. I initiated a lockout, sealing the evidence into a partition she couldn't touch. Then I executed a preservation action that backed it up to a redundant, secure federal-level archive. Even if she nuked her servers, I could restore every second of her abuse. She must have noticed. Her access requests doubled, tripled, desperate now. Good. I pulled up the live network graph. Cameras across the neighborhood popped online, one after another. She was activating everything, looking for me, hunting for weaknesses. I grabbed a headset and dialed in one of my coworkers, Darren. He answered with his usual dry tone. "You're not on shift. Everything okay?" "No," I said. "But it will be." He must have heard the weight in my voice because he stopped making jokes. "What do you need?" he asked. Just make sure these files get logged into the protected archive. Leave a trace that confirms when they were seized. You expecting someone to destroy evidence? They already tried. He didn't ask another question. Good friends don't when a father sounds like this. I ended the call and closed my eyes, just for a second, picturing Lily asleep in her crib, her tiny fingers curled, trusting me to keep the world from touching her again. Karen wanted control? She just triggered federal alarms. Before leaving, I drafted a formal request for joint review, sending notices to CPS and a cybercrimes contact from past assignments. Then, I locked down the system. Karen wouldn't get a single bite from here forward. As I walked toward the exit, one final notification flashed to my phone. HOA emergency board meeting. Attendance required. The timing was no coincidence. They weren't just trying to erase me digitally. They wanted to bury me publicly. I stepped outside into the sunlight, the same sunlight Karen tried to deny Lily. My anger wasn't rage anymore. It was purpose, and purpose was far more dangerous. Karen thought she was still the one broadcasting control, but soon she would learn. The whole world was tuning in. The whole world was tuning in. But tuning in wasn't enough, not yet. This had to become unavoidable for every authority that mattered, and I knew exactly who I needed to face next. I arrived at the CPS office 20 minutes later, Lily asleep in her carrier, her tiny hand resting against the strap like she was holding on to safety itself. My footsteps echoed down the polished hallway as I approached the same investigator from earlier, Ms. Halston, who stood outside a conference room reviewing files. Her eyes widened the moment she saw me. Not fear, not sympathy, curiosity. She'd been thinking about us. "I know you're conducting an investigation," I said before she could speak. "There's more you need to see. Evidence Karen Holt is manipulating emergency systems to frame parents." Her posture straightened, professional composure tightening like armor. "Mr. Ward, we are already—" "She exported child data across state lines," I cut in, "and she triggered a federal alert protocol to harass a baby, my baby." Her lips parted. That got her attention. "Show me," she said. I handed her my encrypted drive, labeled with full metadata, timestamps, federal-grade assurance. She held it carefully, like it might burn her fingers. "I'll need to authenticate. Do it quickly," I said. Not rude, urgent. Fathers didn't have time for polite when their kids were targeted. Before she could respond, a door opened across the lobby, and a familiar voice dripped poison into the air. "Oh, how predictable," Karen Holt announced, striding forward in a pristine white blazer, as if dressing like a saint could erase her sins. "Manipulating CPS now? What a desperate man will do." She smiled directly at Lily, masking her contempt under a veneer of pity. "This child should be somewhere safe," she said loud enough for everyone to hear, "not dragged around like a prop in her father's tantrum." My blood ran hot, but Ms. Halston stepped between us. "Ms. Holt, this is an active case. Please do not interfere." Karen's expression twitched, just once, like she wasn't used to being told no. Then she leaned toward the investigator slightly, voice oily. "You'll want to check recent incident records. He has a habit of ignoring rules." "I have seen the records," Halston replied calmly, "which is why I intend to review all the source footage." That simple statement hit Karen like a slap. Her eyes darted to the drive in Halston's hand. "You can't trust that data," she snapped. "He works in tech. He could fabricate anything." Halston turned to me. "Is that true?" "No," I answered evenly, "because every file has a chain of custody logged through my organization's federal audit infrastructure. If I edited anything, it would be flagged instantly." Karen knew she'd lost this round. Her jaw tightened. She pivoted, heels striking the floor like angry punctuation, and marched toward the exit. But just as she reached the door, she spun back with a venomous smirk. "Be at the emergency board meeting tonight, Ethan. You'll want a fair chance to defend your residency before the vote." Then she slipped out, performance complete. Ms. Halston exhaled slowly. "Mr. Ward, this may move very quickly. If the evidence confirms what you're saying, there will be consequences." "For her?" I asked. "For everyone who helped her," she clarified. Brent's trembling face flashed through my mind. He was walking a razor's edge. Halston nodded toward Lily. "Keep her close today, and stay alert." I nodded and left, gripping Lily's carrier like a lifeline. Outside, the world felt louder, like the whole neighborhood was whispering secrets about us. Under different circumstances, I may have questioned what I was stepping into, but now, there was no backing down. On the drive home, my phone pinged with a new safety watch notification. I braced myself and opened it. Community alert. Residents advised to avoid family lawn until incident is resolved. Parental negligence under review. A picture of me holding Lily, mid-fear, mid-scream, taken from Karen's live stream, sat beneath it. She was turning my reality into propaganda. I parked at home and sat in silence for a moment, staring at my reflection in the rear-view mirror. I looked tired, but more than tired, unbreakable. I carried Lily inside and set her down for a nap. She sighed softly, blissfully unaware of the war she'd been dragged into. I kissed her forehead and stroked her hair. My voice came out quiet, but steel sharp. I promised your mother I'd protect you, and I will. My phone buzzed again. This time, Brent. We need to talk. She's planning something worse tonight. Meet me before the meeting. I'll be behind the community hall. Don't come alone. My pulse kicked hard against my ribs. Tonight wasn't just a vote. It was an ambush. And when they tried to corner me, the evidence I held would flip the trap in one move. Karen wanted to put me on trial. Good. Because I was bringing a witness list she couldn't silence. Karen wanted to put me on trial. Good. Because I wasn't walking into that meeting blind. I strapped Lily into her car seat, double-checked the baby monitor app on my phone, and drove to the community hall early, as Brent instructed. But instead of pulling into the main parking lot, where HOA cameras watched every move, I parked behind the building near the community garden. The evening sun dipped low, casting long shadows between the raised planters. It felt like enemy territory. Brent was already there, pacing. Sweat darkened his shirt along the collar, and his hands twisted together like he didn't know what to do with guilt heavy enough to crush him. When he spotted me, his shoulders jumped like he'd been caught. Then he hurried over, eyes flicking to the corners of the building, checking whether Karen was lurking or spying. "She's accelerating everything," he whispered. "The board is meeting early. She's calling for an immediate vote to revoke your residency rights. If she gets 2/3 support, you'll be forcibly removed within 24 hours. "She can't remove a homeowner," I replied, voice low, controlled. "She can if she claims immediate safety risk," he said. Section 9B, emergency expulsion if a resident is deemed a threat to minors. The irony nearly made me choke. Brent kept glancing toward the hall's back entrance, nervous tics overtaking every movement. His fingers fidgeted with the edge of his clipboard again, like he was clutching the last piece of evidence that still made him feel useful. "Karen told everyone that CPS is preparing to remove Lily from your custody," he said. "She's spinning the story that you're unstable, that you caused the fall for attention. She's using your job to make you look dangerous." I stayed silent, letting him keep talking. His guilt needed room to breathe. He swallowed. "She also ordered me to erase the footage permanently last night, all internal backups too. She said if I didn't do it, she'd convince the board I was complicit in negligence permitting child harm." "I'm guessing you didn't delete it," I said. His eyes widened with both relief and fear. "No, I hid it. The raw feed, unedited, everything. I copied it to a private directory only I have access to." His voice cracked. "I couldn't destroy the truth." There it was, the confession that changed everything. I leaned in closer. "And you're ready to testify to that?" His throat bobbed. His gaze dropped to the gravel. "I want to, but she knows too much about me." He took a shaky breath and finally forced out what he'd been avoiding. "She has files on me, on my family, my mother's medical debt. She threatened to revoke our payment extension with the HOA-approved lender. If that happens, we lose everything." His hands tightened into fists until the knuckles whitened. "I never wanted to be a part of this, but she made sure we were all too scared to fight. Fear. That was Karen's greatest weapon, and right now, Brent was bleeding from its blade. "You're not alone anymore," I told him. "The evidence I archived is already protected. She can't bury this." He looked up, hope trying to fight through years of submission. "If I give you the access code, the exact location of the files, can you make sure they can't be deleted?" "Yes," I said. No hesitation. Brent dug into his coat pocket and handed me a folded slip of paper. He glanced around before letting go of it, like he Expected a drone to swoop down and snatch it midair. I unfolded it and memorized the credentials before pocketing it. That paper alone could collapse Karen's empire. She's been logging kids, Brent said, voice trembling again. Lily isn't the only one she flagged. She created a watch list of risk minors. Parents don't even know. She tagged them with identifiers like problem noise, visual clutter, sale risk. She wants a community with no crying, no toys, no imperfections. A community without childhood. Brent's breathing hitched. If she succeeds tonight, she's submitting a motion to expand those standards. More restrictions, curfews for toddlers, pre-approval for any outdoor play, camera enforcement. It won't just be you. Every family becomes a suspect. His fear gave way to anger, brief but powerful. His fists curled like he wanted to punch the wall. You have to expose her, he said. If anyone else says it, they'll silence us. But if you say it with proof, I will, I said, and he knew I meant it. The hall's back doors suddenly swung open. A board member stepped out, scanning the garden area before heading toward the entrance. They're starting, Brent whispered. Be ready. She's expecting to humiliate you tonight. But I think she's underestimating what you've built. His posture shifted just slightly. Not hiding, not apologizing, choosing. And for the first time since moving into this place built on fear, someone besides me looked ready to fight back. Brent, I said quietly. He paused. Thank you. He nodded once, less terrified now, more determined, and walked toward the hall, shoulders squaring as he prepared to betray the queen who ruled them all. The vote to exile me was coming, but so was the truth. The vote to exile me was coming, but exile wasn't what scared me. Losing Lily was, and the only way Karen could take her was if she controlled the evidence. She thought fear made her untouchable. She forgot that fear turns the right person into a weapon. I waited until Brent vanished through the hall doors before heading back to my car, pulling out my laptop and connecting to a secure hotspot. The community hall loomed ahead, buzzing with judgment. I wasn't going inside yet. This wasn't just about gathering proof anymore. It was about making sure the world heard it. I accessed the credentials Brent gave me and tunneled into the administrative database Karen thought she controlled. My heart pounded with each authorization success screen. Finally, the directory he'd hidden appeared, raw footage archive. I opened the file. There she was. Karen pushed the stroller. Lily cried. The truth, unfiltered. I replayed it, letting anger sharpen. Then I pulled up Karen's edited version, the one she broadcast to residents. She cut the moment of contact entirely and cropped the frame. She turned a crime into a lie and expected the world to believe her. Not anymore. I compiled a presentation, side-by-side comparisons of the real footage and her falsified broadcast. Metadata overlays, time codes, IP logs, server hops across state lines. Every detail airtight. As my fingers flew across the keys, Lily stirred softly in her seat behind me. I glanced back. Her little chest rose and fell. Still safe. I took a breath. I'm doing this for you, I whispered. My phone buzzed. A text from Darren. Archive completed. Legal hold active. All changes logged. Perfect. The moment Karen stepped out of line next, the digital hammer would drop. But I needed one more thing. Exposure. I opened a secure upload pipeline to a trusted news contact. Draft. HOA official endangers child, tries to erase evidence. I attached the backup footage, not publish ready yet, but prepared for when this meeting went the wrong way. Then I extracted the list. The watch list Brent mentioned didn't have a cold technical name. Karen labeled it herself. Perfect Street Index. Real families labeled threats because their kids existed. She wanted a community without childhood. My jaw tightened. This wasn't petty HOA politics anymore. This was a systemic attempt to erase children from a place sold as a family sanctuary. Control disguised as safety. If the neighborhood saw this list, Karen's supporters would evaporate. And the board, they'd turn on her to save themselves. So I packaged that list into the evidence bundle. Ready? Footsteps approached. I clicked my laptop shut and turned. A woman stood there, dark hair, stroller parked beside her, fear written in every tremble of her mouth. Are you Ethan? The man Karen's trying to force out? She asked. Yes, I said, guarded. My son's on that list, she whispered. She showed me her phone, Karen's broadcast flashing across the screen. I didn't believe it at first, but I saw the hazard tape this morning. It scared him so badly he refused to play outside. I'd never seen this resident before. Newer than me, probably hopeful, perfect. Now, just tired. You're not alone, I told her. Tears welled in her eyes. Are you going to stop her? I will, I said. But I need you in there tonight. They need to see they're not just voting against me. They're voting against every child on this street. She nodded slowly, courage forming like steel forged. Thank you, she whispered. As she left, more residents trickled toward the hall, parents gripping their kids' shoulders, the community Karen claimed to protect now doubting its protector. I looked back at my laptop and reopened the evidence. Tonight, Karen would present her lies under the spotlight she built for herself, and I would show the world what that spotlight revealed when pointed in the right direction. Lily stirred again. I reached back and touched her tiny hand, grounding myself. Fear built Karen's kingdom, but truth was going to tear it down. I locked the car and lifted Lily into my arms, holding her close as I approached the brightly lit entrance of the community hall. The energy inside felt like a courtroom, disguised as a neighborhood meeting, folding chairs arranged in rows, a podium at the front, a projector screen behind it, currently showing the Hawthorne Pines logo like a warning symbol. Residents stared like they'd come to witness a public execution. I found a place near the back where I had a clear line of sight to the front. Karen paced at the podium, flipping through documents with exaggerated annoyance. Her voice cut through. We won't allow misconduct to jeopardize our high standards, she declared, dripping authority she didn't deserve. We are here to protect our children. The woman who nearly injured mine, claiming to be a protector. My grip on Lily tightened. Brent sat off to the side, ready to unravel her lies. He caught my eye for a split second, offering a nervous nod. A board member stepped to the podium. We will begin with the emergency motion proposed by Vice President Holt, he said. A vote to terminate residency for Ethan Ward of 14 Marigold Court due to ongoing endangerment of a minor. Gasps rippled through the room. Karen smiled like she'd already won. We've all seen the footage, she continued. We've seen the tantrums, the aggression. This is our responsibility. I stepped forward. No, I said, loud enough to cut through her monologue. You have only seen what Karen wanted you to see. Murmurs rose. Karen froze mid-sentence, eyes narrowing. This is a controlled meeting, she hissed. You do not have permission to speak. I'm the father of the baby you nearly dropped into the pavement, I shot back. I'm speaking. I moved closer to the aisle, voice rising. My daughter isn't a threat. She isn't a nuisance. She's a child. And Karen flagged her as a risk to property values. Silence spread. She did what? A woman whispered. I tapped my phone, sending a signal to the projector receiver. The screen flickered, then replaced itself with the first image from my evidence collection. Lily in her stroller, Karen's hand shoving down. Karen lunged for the projector controls. Cut that feed, she snapped. But the file was logged through my secure device, not theirs. You deleted the truth, I continued, and left only the lies. I advanced to the next slide, metadata showing the edit points where Karen removed herself from the video. This is the real footage, and this is what she broadcast instead. Residents leaned in. Karen slammed her palm on the podium. This is manipulation. No, I said. This is what manipulation looks like. Next slide. The server routes across state lines. She exported private data of children without consent. Next slide. The perfect street index. Pandemonium erupted. Karen's mask cracked. Fear flickered behind those calculating eyes. You're accusing me of criminal activity? She spat. I'm not accusing, I answered. I'm proving. Brent rose from his chair, shoulders squared. His voice trembled, but he spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. She ordered me to delete the original video. She threatened my home if I refused. The crowd turned fully against her. Karen backed away. He's lying, she croaked. He's just angry I didn't promote him. Brent shook his head, pain tightening his words. I'm angry because you hurt a baby. The board members exchanged horrified looks. Their power, once hers to command, had shifted beneath their feet. I took one more step forward. Tonight was never about standards. It was about control. And Karen Holt doesn't protect this community. She terrorizes it. Silence swallowed the room. The board chair finally stood. His voice dropped heavier than a gavel. Effective immediately, Vice President Holt is stripped of her role pending a full federal investigation. Gasps. Karen's face drained. I held Lily close, heart pounding with a promise kept. The truth had finally started speaking for us. Justice could finally begin. Karen stood frozen, stripped of her title, but not yet stripped of her power. People like her didn't crumble cleanly. They fought harder. As residents turned on her, I saw the panic beneath her rage. The board chair signaled a short recess before the official vote on next actions. Residents spilled into the hallway, buzzing with disbelief and outrage. I stepped out too, letting Lily rest on my shoulder, listening. She did this? She hurt a baby? I defended her for years. Karen slipped into a corner with two bored loyalists, hissing frantic instructions. Whatever she planned next wouldn't be subtle. Brent joined me, shoulders lighter, without the weight of his silence. You did it, he said, breath shaky. Not yet, I replied. She's about to escalate. He followed my gaze. Karen glared, pulling out her phone. She's going live, Brent whispered, and she did. The notification pinged on my phone before she even spoke. She angled the camera for maximum drama. I'm being attacked, she told her followers. A dangerous man falsified evidence to frame me. And these residents, these sheep, are falling for it. I need every parent who cares to get here now. Protect Hawthorne Pines. She was summoning her army. Brent clenched his fists. She's mobilizing more fear. I checked Lily, still asleep, unaware of the danger sharpening around us. We stay ahead of her, I said. Truth doesn't wait. We stepped farther down the hall to buffer from the crowd, now shifting uncertainly. Her strength had always been confusion, pulling people's fear back to her side. The board chair approached, expression tense. Mr. Ward, the evidence is convincing. But this community is emotional. We must proceed carefully. Carefully? I asked. She just used children's data to rally a mob. Halston, the CPS investigator, arrived then, badge now visible. She stepped past us to confront Karen. Ms. Holt, she said, I'm issuing a cease and desist on all Safety Watch broadcasts. You're under investigation for endangerment and digital misconduct. Karen turned the camera toward Halston. See? Outsiders dictating what happens to your children. Her viewers filled the live stream chat with rage. Cars were already turning into the parking lot. Halston's jaw tightened. Shut it down, now. Karen held the phone like a shield. Not until you remove him and that child from our community. Her demand hit hard. She didn't even hide it anymore. Lily wasn't a resident, she was leverage. I stepped closer. The whole internet sees this. Karen's eyes flickered with panic, just once, before hate swallowed it. You don't belong here, she screamed. Families who care about safety know it. Halston motioned toward the board. Until the investigation concludes, Ethan and his daughter remain under protective review. Interfere, and you will face legal consequences. Karen spat on the floor, cornered, and stormed toward the exit. I caught her mutter under her breath. Get everyone here, now. Brent grabbed my arm. We need to secure Lily. I nodded. We moved quickly through the hallway to the nursery room, a space meant for play and trust. A space Karen turned into a battlefield. I laid Lily in a crib, adjusting her blanket. She looked peaceful. Brent hovered near the window. Cars, he said. 3, no, 4, pulling up fast. Karen's army was arriving. Halston locked the door and radioed for additional state support. Stay with your daughter, she told me. We'll handle the crowd. I wasn't used to letting others fight for me, but this wasn't about pride. It was about Lily breathing freely another day. Through the glass, silhouettes gathered, fueled by lies, voices pressed against the walls, demanding punishment for crimes we never committed. Brent looked at me, fear creeping in again. This is going to get ugly. I placed my hand gently on Lily's back and steadied my heart. It already did, I said. But we're still here. And for the first time, fear wasn't on my side of the door. Justice stood guard. The chanting outside grew louder with every passing second. A storm of outrage pounding against the walls. Halston's radio crackled with updates. More cars, more people, more fury whipped up by a live stream of lies. I held Lily close until Halston signaled the nursery was no longer secure. We had to move. She led us through a back exit normally used for deliveries. Brent followed, clutching the access key like it was the last shield he had left. The moment we stepped into the open air, the roar of the crowd hit. Parents shouting, phones raised high, everyone driven by Karen's version of the truth. "Where's the baby herder? Kick him out now. He's a danger." Every accusation struck like a stone. Lily whimpered against my chest, fear catching her breath. Halston lifted her badge. "This is an active federal investigation. Step aside." Some parents hesitated. Others advanced. Then Karen emerged from the center of the mob like she'd been crowned their savior, her live stream still rolling, her voice dripping venom. "There he is! The man who staged his own child's injury for attention." She pointed straight at me, eyes wild with desperation. "And look! He's hiding behind government agents. They always do when they're guilty." The crowd surged, phones angled toward us like weapons, hungry for a villain. I stepped forward anyway. "No more hiding," I said. Brent froze. "Ethan, it's time." I passed Lily gently to Halston, who shielded her with her body. My hands were free now, made to hold evidence, not fear. "Look at me," I called out, loud enough to slice through the noise. "You think I'd risk my daughter's life for views, for attention?" The mob simmered into uneasy murmurs. "You saw a clip Karen edited," I continued. "You saw what she wanted you to see. But did you ever wonder why she cut out the first seconds of that video?" Karen scoffed into her phone. "He's panicking. He knows he's cornered." I raised my phone and pressed a single button. The large outdoor community bulletin screen, normally used for movie nights, flickered to life behind her. The raw footage Brent saved projected in massive clarity. Karen pushed the stroller, Lily's cry, my frantic grab. Gasps spread like shockwaves. Karen spun to see it, her mask splitting open. She lunged for the screen controls, but too late. The clip replayed, enlarged, undeniable. "You deleted the truth," I said. "But the truth deleted you." I swiped again. The next slide appeared, metadata detailing the edits, time-stamped with Karen's access credentials. Parents stared, horror dawning. A few lowered their signs, a few lowered their eyes. And then the final slide, perfect street index, names of every child she marked as a liability. Outrage shifted direction. "You flagged my daughter? That's my son on there." "We trusted you." Karen's face twisted, fear infecting her voice. "All of this was to protect you from people like him. He's manipulating your emotions. He's a cyber criminal." Halston stepped forward then, badge raised high. "Ms. Holt, you are under federal detainment pending charges including data tampering, child endangerment, and unlawful surveillance." Karen stumbled back, cornered by the very community she once controlled. "You can't arrest me. I built this neighborhood. I protected these families." "No," I said quietly. "You exploited them." A parent who'd shouted for my removal minutes ago now pushed past the barrier, toward Karen. Tears streamed down her face. "You scared our kids. You made us believe we were the danger." More parents joined, forming a ring around Karen, not me. The shift was complete. Halston grabbed Karen's arm. The hand that once shoved my daughter now bound, powerless. Karen's phone clattered to the pavement, live stream still running, broadcasting her downfall to the same crowd she weaponized. As she was escorted away, she screamed, "You will regret this, all of you." No one believed her anymore. Brent exhaled a breath that sounded like his first in years. He turned to me, eyes wet. "You saved them," he whispered. "Not just Lily. All of them." Halston handed Lily back into my arms. My daughter's heartbeat thumped against mine, steady, safe. The board chair approached meekly, humbled by the truth. "Mr. Ward," he said, voice soft with guilt, "the vote has changed direction. Tonight is no longer about your removal, but about rebuilding what she broke." Applause slowly rose, hesitant at first, then overwhelming, not for revenge, for freedom. And as I held Lily close, her small hand clutching my shirt like she knew we'd won, I realized this wasn't the end. It was the beginning of taking back our lives, together. Applause still thundered in my ears as Halston led Karen away, her shouts fading into the night. But victory wasn't a finish line. It was a responsibility. Lily shifted against my chest, her small fingers curling into my shirt, like she could sense the tension melting into relief. Residents lingered outside the community hall, stunned by how quickly everything had changed. Confusion gave way to clarity, fear to protectiveness, silence to unity. For the first time, I saw Hawthorne Pines not as a perfect picture, but as a real neighborhood, people, families, children who deserved laughter without surveillance. Brent stood nearby, wiping his glasses with a shaking hand. "I didn't think we would win," he admitted, "not against someone who controlled everything." "She never controlled the truth," I said. "She only controlled what people were allowed to see." He let out a weak laugh. It wasn't joy, it was relief escaping a prison. The board chair approached, accompanied by 2 members who looked like they hadn't slept well in months. "Mr. Ward," he began, "we owe you an apology, and more than that, a promise to fix what we allowed." "A promise is only real if you act on it," I replied. He nodded. "We will." The harsh fluorescent lights flicked on inside the hall again, and the board motioned everyone to return. This time, the seats filled with a very different energy. Parents sat with their children on their laps, facing the front, not in judgment, but hope. The chair stepped to the podium. "Tonight," he said, voice steadier now, "we failed to see the danger in letting power go unchecked. We almost lost families. We almost lost our values. Effective immediately, all emergency authority given to Karen Holt is revoked. The Safety Watch system will be audited by an independent tech team, and the Perfect Street Index is formally destroyed." A cheer rose, not loud, but deep. Healing was always quieter than harm. "And," he continued, "a motion is now on the table to elect a new vice president, someone who has proven their dedication to protecting our most vulnerable residents." Dozens of eyes turned toward me. I stepped back, startled. "I'm not a politician," I said. "No," the chair replied. "You're a father. That's exactly why you should help lead." For a moment I couldn't speak. My life had revolved around firewalls and digital threats, not budgets and landscaping codes. But this place had nearly taken my daughter because no one pushed back sooner. Maybe that was the message. I looked at Lily, her bruise fading, her safety restored. She blinked up at me, innocent as light. Brent stepped forward. "You won't be doing it alone," he said. "Some of us are done hiding." Another parent stood, then another, a rising chorus of support. I inhaled deeply and turned back to the microphone. "I didn't move here to fight an HOA," I said, "but I also didn't move here to watch families be bullied into silence. This neighborhood deserves leaders who see life instead of liability. So, yes, if you'll have me, I'll serve." The applause that followed wasn't explosive. It was warm, real, the kind that stitched wounds shut. Brent was reappointed as secretary. The mother, whose son feared the hazard tape, volunteered to oversee a new family committee. Residents signed up to undo damage they once ignored. Karen's empire was dismantled in minutes, not by anger, but by truth. When the meeting ended, the night air felt different, lighter. The hazard tape around the family lawn was gone, replaced with children chasing each other under street lamps. Lily laughed at the sight, and that sound alone paid for every battle scar left on my heart. We walked home slowly, Brent beside me, Halston escorting us until Lily was safely inside. She shook my hand before leaving. "You protected her," she said. "That's what matters most." As I laid Lily in her crib, her breathing soft and steady, I finally allowed myself to exhale fully. We were home, and home would never be a battlefield again. But before I closed the door, I glanced back one more time. "You're safe now," I whispered, "and I'll make sure it stays that way." Then I turned to the camera recording our statement for anyone who needed it, and delivered the final message with a steady voice. If you want more stories of homeowners standing up to HOA tyranny, hit subscribe right now, share your story in the comments, and let me know where you're watching from.